Although it's important for you to know which exercises you need to do to help you reach your goals, whether it be building muscle or building strength, it's even more important to know which order to put them in. What's up, everyone? David here. Got a new video for y'all today. But before we get into it, if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to the channel, hit the bell notification so you don't miss out any new videos. Because remember, new videos on this channel every Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday. So don't miss out. So today we're going to be talking about the order in which you do the exercises. Now, I'm pretty sure many of you out there, you got different goals. But majority of you, it will come down to the same thing. You're hitting the gym, your goal is to build muscle or build strength. We're not going to necessarily talk about losing fat or losing weight today. We're strictly limiting to strength and aesthetics. So building muscle, getting big, building strength, loading up the bar. All the gym bros, you all want to go to the bench press. You just want to load up as much weight as possible, get your 1 rep max. But you got to ask yourself, are you a bodybuilder or are you a power lifter? Is your goal to load the bench as much as possible and compete to see who's the strongest? Or to impress all the fit chicks in the gym? Or is your goal to get out as much reps as possible and really contract that muscle to really build up those pecs as big as you want them to be? Again, those are the essential questions right there. So that's where exercise order matters. So here's what we got. Realistically, there's 2 ways to go about it. And like I said in the beginning, it's going to be strength and it's going to be bodybuilding or aesthetics, looks, however you want to frame it. So for the sake of this video, we're going to go ahead and start off with strength. And we're going to go ahead and define strength as trying to improve and build upon how much weight you can load up on the bar at whatever given exercise. So the fact that I said given exercise, it is very specific. When you train for strength, most likely you're going to be competing for something where you're going to be having that strength tested. So in this case, you're going to be either a power lifter or a strongman. You're already a strongman. They're the big guys. They lift the stones, the logs, they flip the tires, deadlifts, big, heavy movements like that, carrying big, heavy implements. And then you got power lifters. They focus on the big 3, squat, bench, and deadlift. So when they train for strength, the order of their exercises matters because the priority will be that one movement in which they're trying to improve upon. So for the sake of this video, we'll go ahead and start off, let's just say with a bench press. Now, that is the priority. So obviously, let's go ahead and put it first. You work up to whatever it is that your top set would be. You do it warming up. All right, today I have to do a top set of 3, or I have to do a heavy double today, a top set of 5 with 335, or I have to do a double at 455, or I have to do a single with 495, whatever it may be. You're working up to that one top set at the very first exercise. And that very first exercise is what it is that you're most likely going to be competing for to improve upon. Also, another reason to put the big compound movement first, obviously, that's when you're the most fresh. You're not as fatigued because it's the start of your workout. So all of your energy should go towards the priority of that one given lift. Now, the next exercise or the next types of exercises, it's going to be some type of variation. Typically, once you're done getting your top set, you'll then move on to those exercises that are going to help address your weak points. So let's just say on someone with a bench press, you go ahead and do your reps, but whenever it is you're going for your max, you struggle with the lockout. You're good with getting the bar off your chest, tap, you come up, but halfway through, man, all of a sudden, you're starting to go ahead and fatigue. So next exercise in the order of importance is a variation of that given movement, which was a priority earlier, but it's going to be working out that weak point. So if you struggle with the lockout portion of your bench press, you can go ahead and do something like a block press. Have a block right here in your chest, so you're only working the range of motion in which you're struggling with. You can go ahead and do pin presses. So set the pins a little bit higher, so that way the bar comes down, touches the pin, and you're only working that range of motion in which you struggle with. So for this sake, we'll just go ahead and say pin press. Again, order matters. What is of most importance? Obviously the bench press, because that's what you're going to be competing in. Next order of priority, number 2, the variation of that movement that's going to help address the weak points. Because how do we get better at our movement? By working on our weak points. And then 3rd, right here, in strength terms, we will call this accessories. But for the common folk, they're going to be viewing this as what is typically associated with bodybuilding. Now we're going to go ahead and focus essentially on looks. Let me rephrase that. It's not necessarily that you're focusing on looks. It's the fact that you're doing exercises that are typically associated with those that are trying to improve their physique. This is our main strength movement, the bench press. This is the variation that's going to help us work out that weak point. Now we finish off the workout with our accessories. Our accessories are the exercises that contribute to the bench press. So think about, what are the muscles that we work? The pecs, the front delts, the triceps. So let's go ahead and do exercises that help us build up those 3 individual muscle groups. Because when we're doing these 2 movements, we're working them all at the same time. Let's take the time to build each one up individually. And typically when you're singling out in a muscle group, what is that? That's bodybuilding. So we're gonna go ahead and do some chest exercises. So you could be doing things like cable crossover, flies, you just wanna build up the chest. And then we said what? The front delt. So we could go ahead and do some front raises, because regardless, we still gotta work those shoulders, so front delts. And then what else did we say? Triceps. And what did we talk about earlier? Pin presses. Why? Because we struggle with the lockout. Okay, so when we struggle with the lockout, what does that mean? Our tricep is not strong enough to lock out our elbow. All right, let's do some direct tricep work. So go ahead and jump on the cable machine, do some tricep push downs, some overhead extensions, things like that. Even also bench press. What is it that we're laying down on the bench? On our back. We want to be able to contract that back, have a good stable foundation to press on. What is that going to be? So let's do some back work. All right, let's do some rows, some pull downs. Use the dumbbells, a barbell, dumbbell rows, barbell rows, T-bar rows. You got to build up your back. You want a strong bench? You obviously need something stable to press off of. So don't neglect your back work. So this is typically how you will structure a strength workout. Again, first exercise would be that main movement that you're prioritizing. Most likely, that's gonna be the movement that you're gonna be competing in. Next movement, second most important exercise, is gonna be whatever that variation of that movement is that you struggle with. Some people struggle with the lockout, some people struggle with the bottom half. Whatever it may be, emphasize it. And then move on to your accessories. Your accessories are gonna be those individual muscle groups that all contribute back to that first movement. So if this was a squat, in this case, your accessories would obviously be your quads, your glutes, your hammies, still some back, because we need a strong back to pull the bar down onto. So that's how it would be for strength. But if now we're prioritize, I guess bodybuilding would be the best way, but again, not everyone is a bodybuilder. Don't think that just because I say you're training for bodybuilding, your goal is to compete. It's just the term I'm going to be using to train for looks, for guys. Big, broad shoulders, wide back, big arms. Ladies, maybe, the hourglass figure, whatever it may be. So when I say bodybuilding, it's really just aesthetics, training for looks. For this one, there's multiple ways that you can go about the order of the exercises. Yes, you can go about it with still prioritizing the main movement of the day. So in this case, if we're gonna still stick with the bench press, it's not necessarily that you have a bench press day. It most likely will be you have a chest day or a push day. So number one, it can be, let's just say, bench press again. You do however many sets and reps it is that you have programmed for you. Afterwards, it's not necessarily that you're going to be doing an exercise to help you with the weak point of that lift, but it will be now addressing the weak points of that particular area or that particular muscle group. So in this case, most guys, we do all this bench pressing. All right, our lower pec, nice and developed, but what is the one part of our pec that we always want to develop and build up more of? Obviously, it's going to be the upper chest. So instead of training for strength and the lockout and focus on that, we're focusing on a particular area and making it bigger. So in this case, let's go ahead and go with an incline press. Doesn't matter if it's with dumbbells, barbells, whatever. We're just slightly angling a little bit higher up, working a little bit more of the upper chest. So the first couple of movements are all compound movements. Compound movements means that we're going to work multiple joints at the same time. So whenever we're pressing, what's moving? Obviously, it's our shoulders and our elbows. So those two will take the priority with this approach. Get all of your compound movements, your big multi-joint movements first out of the way, and then you go ahead and focus on the isolation exercises. And isolation means that only one joint is moving. So whereas pressing motions are two, your shoulder and your elbows, isolation will just be one. And if we're focusing on the chest, that one joint is most likely only going to be the shoulder. So what are we going to be doing? Cable crossovers, flies. You see how only one joint is moving? I'm just moving the shoulder just in slightly different angles depending on how I'm trying to target the muscle group. If I start moving my elbow, that's a little bit more tricep. So that's one way to go about building up that particular muscle group for bodybuilding. Do all of your compound movements first and then your isolation movements. So again, it's like flies, cable crossovers. But this is not the only way to go about for bodybuilding. You don't always have to start off with that big compound movement because again, you're not always training for strength, you're training for looks. So what's the different approach that you can go about? We're gonna approach this right here as pre-exhaustion, the pre-exhaust method. Some people are doing it, they just don't know it's called that. Other people just don't know what it is entirely. Many of you, you're training for looks, you're not training for strength. Ask yourself, is your goal to build up your chest as big as possible, or is your goal to lift as much weight as possible? If you're training for bodybuilding for looks, then it should be the latter. It should be you're training to get the muscle as big as possible. So what do? What you can do is now go the opposite. Focus on the isolation exercises first and then move on to the compound exercises. So in this case, if we are still focusing on the chest, let's start off with some cable crossovers. Right off the bat, you're fresh, going straight into the workout, grab the cable machine, already just pumping as much blood as possible into those pecs. Afterwards, go on into those flies. Again, full stretch, full range of motion, and then squeezing at the top. At this point, you do it right. Good range of motion, adequate amounts of resistance, your chest should already feel fatigued. Again, you're stretching it, you're contracting it. Pecs are already tired. Now you can go ahead and move on to those multi-joint, those compound movements. So we can go on to a bench press. Now, the thing is, the fact that you're going into bench press now with your pecs already fatigued means you're not going to be able to lift as much anymore compared to if you were to start with the bench press. And that is perfectly fine because again, your goal in the first place wasn't to lift as much as possible on the bench press. Your goal was to contract the muscle, to make it grow. And when it comes to building muscle, the amount of weight you lift does not indicate how much growth you're gonna be making. If you want more in-depth information about that, check out my previous video where I talked about how important it is how much you should be lifting to build muscle. So in this case, normally if you were able to rep out 225, if you were to start off with bench press, now the fact that you already fatigued the chest, you might only be able to rep out 185, 135. That is perfectly fine because again, your goal is to build up muscle, not build up strength. And then after you're done with that, all right, let's go ahead and move on to the incline. Now your chest is even more fatigued, it's even more tired, so you're definitely gonna be able to go a lot lighter, or you're gonna have no choice but to go a lot lighter with incline press, because why would you force yourself to lift absolutely heavy on an exercise where the muscle group is already tired? What is that gonna do? That's just gonna lead to injury. So this is forcing you to go light. And is that always a bad thing? No, it's not necessarily. When you really think about it, that's actually gonna help you preserve your joints because now your joints are not straining as hard against heavy resistance. It's a lot lighter, but you're contracting. Again, there's nothing wrong with this approach. You just gotta be cautious about the injury risk. It can be safer if you're going about it the right way. You're starting off with the isolation movements, all right? And then when you go to your compounds, you can go as heavy, go lighter, that's perfectly fine. But if you're starting off with your isolations, fatiguing those muscle groups, and then you're still trying to force yourself to go as heavy as you normally would with these exercises, although you're already tired and the muscle's already burnt out, then obviously the risk of injury is going to increase because now you're forcing your body to push past the point of you being tired and fatigued and exhausted. Something's got to give. So be real cautious about the way that you're going about the pre-exhaustion method. If you do it right, it can work. But if you're going about it incorrectly and you're letting ego get the best of you, then you're just bound to get hurt, especially with something like a squat. If it was a leg day, you would have done all of your leg extensions, all of your leg curls, all of your walking lunges, all these smaller movements first, and then you jump into a squat, you're going to a squat expecting to go heavy, but your quads, your glutes, your hammies are already tired and fatigued, and you're still trying to go super heavy on squats. Hey, something's gotta give. An injury is bound to happen. So obviously, take this into consideration, but be real cautious about it. And then lastly, there is one more approach that we can take when it comes to bodybuilding. And this is now going into not only the order of the exercises that we're doing for a particular muscle group, but the order of the muscle groups as a whole. This one is very particular, in my opinion, to, let's just say, legs. Fellas, what is the one muscle group that you struggle with the most in your legs? What is the reason why you always wear sweats? Because you're too insecure to show off your legs. Our calves, my guy, you gotta work out your calves. But what is the reason why you're skipping your calf training in the first place? You're going to the gym because you actually do hit legs, believe it or not. Yeah, good job. You're not one of those gym bros who only does bench press and arms. No, you actually do legs. Good for you. But you always save your calf training to the very end. And then what happens at the very end? You're already tired. You did so many squats, so many RDLs, leg extensions, leg curls, leg press. You did all of your other work for your thighs, for your quads and your hamstrings. By the time it gets to your calf training, you're already too tired. You just want to go home. So how about instead of waiting to the very end, how about we do that one muscle group that we're really trying to prioritize at the very beginning? So this method, this final method for bodybuilding, is more of emphasizing the weak points. So number one, first exercise is going to be more of that one muscle group that is lagging the most. So we'll just go with the weakest slash smallest muscle group. And when I say weakest, I'm not talking about how much you can lift. Again, because we're using the example for calves, no one ever cares how much you can calf raise. No one ever goes up to you and says, hey bro, how much you calf raise? I'm talking about this is the weakest in comparison to the look of the rest of your fatigue, your weak point. When you're stepping on stage, or if you're just looking at yourself in the mirror and you know it's good, well-developed physique, but this muscle group, it's looking a little small compared to everything else. My weak point, that's what we're going to be addressing first. Whatever it is that you're trying to work first, whatever you know you need the most improvement on, whatever you know you need to build the most of, that goes number one. So on leg day, typically that could be something like calves. Get all of your calf training done first. If it was an upper body day, let's just say shoulders. Front delt is already well developed. Rear delt, the back looks good, but you need just a little bit more width. You want your shoulders just to be a little bit more broad. What part of your shoulder are you gonna be working? The side. Okay, so let's start off with that weak point because you want to emphasize a little bit more on that side. All right, start off your workout with the laterals. Work out the side part of your shoulders. Ladies, you're looking at your physique. You like where it's going, but you want to emphasize a little bit more of the hourglass. You want a little bit more glute development. Okay, start off with your glutes. Or on the flip side, maybe you did a little bit too much glute work, and now when you're looking at from the side, you got the glute development looking nice, but then the hamstrings, there's not as smooth of a tie-in. You need the hamstrings to grow just a little bit bigger to balance out the look of your entire leg. Okay, start off with your hamstrings and then move on to the next muscle groups. So again, this one realistically, the order I would put it in is just your weakest all the way to your strongest and most developed muscle group. Because if it's already the most developed, why would you want to prioritize it even more so? If it's your strongest and most developed muscle group and you keep emphasizing and putting it first in the workout, you're just gonna be able to push it even harder. And all that's doing is it's just gonna be building it up even more so. So now the difference between your biggest and strongest, most developed muscle group, the difference between that and your weakest and smallest muscle group is just gonna be an even bigger difference. It's gonna be even more noticeable. And when it comes to bodybuilding, training for looks, again, we gotta take the whole look into account. We want everything to flow perfectly. So ladies, if all you do is grow your glutes and that's all you're prioritizing and you know you need bigger hamstrings, okay, stop doing so much glute work because then they're just gonna get bigger. The hamstrings aren't getting as much love. That difference, that disproportionate look, is just gonna get emphasized even more so. Fellas, guys, same thing. You keep doing all of your squats, your quads are growing massively, but you keep skipping or waiting until the very end to do your calves when you're already tired and you're not even pushing as hard. The difference between how big your quads are in comparison to your calves is that difference is just gonna be getting bigger and bigger and bigger. We gotta close the gap because everything has to flow accordingly. Bodybuilding is about the overall look. Now, if you're into that disproportionate look, then go for it. But if you want everything to look nice, or training for looks, this is one of the best ways to go about it. Start off with your weakest, smallest muscle group, the one that you know needs the most work. Do that first in the workout, and then move on to whatever those more developed body parts are. So there you have it, everyone. That's just 2 ways to go about it. Again, you're either training for strength or you're training to build muscle. Regardless, yes, you may know what exercises is it that you know. Everyone knows that if you want to build your quads, do leg extensions, leg press, hack squats, whatever it may be. That's perfectly fine. And we all know for hamstrings, RDLs, leg curls, back extensions, everyone knows that. But to know which order to put those exercises in, that matters tremendously depending on whatever your goal is, whether it be strength or bodybuilding. You just got to ask yourself, is your goal to build up the muscle, make it as big as possible, or is your goal to add more weight on the bar? Once you can answer those questions, the order of the exercises will make a lot more sense and it'll be a lot easier to figure it out. Hopefully this video was helpful. Comment down below if it was, and also comment down below any other video suggestions you'd like to see me do, whether it be about mindset, motivation, nutrition, diets, workouts, programs, whatever it is. Comment it down below. I'd be more than happy to help y'all out. Be sure to subscribe to my channel so you don't miss out on any new videos, because remember, I got new videos every Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday, so don't miss out. And then Instagram and TikTok, same thing. Be sure to follow me on both accounts. I put all my links down in the description below. With that being said, I'll catch y'all next time.